Comparison is a natural part of being human. From a young age, people begin measuring themselves against others. Who's faster? Who's smarter? Who has more? Who's further ahead? The problem is not that we compare. The problem is the direction in which we usually look. Most people compare upward. They look at someone who has more money, a better job, a happier relationship, a bigger home, or a more successful life. They scroll through social media and see vacations, achievements, and seemingly perfect families. They look at friends and wonder why everyone else appears to be moving faster or doing better. Then, without realizing it, they begin to feel as though they're falling behind. Upward comparison has become one of the great sources of unhappiness in modern life. The difficulty is that people rarely compare their entire lives to someone else's entire life. Instead, they compare their behind-the-scenes struggles to another person's highlight reel. They compare their insecurities to someone else's carefully presented image. This creates a distorted view of reality. A person can have a loving family and still feel unsuccessful because someone else has a bigger house. They can have good health, close friendships, but still feel inadequate because someone else earns more money. They can accomplish something meaningful and immediately diminish it because another person seems to have accomplished more. The finish line keeps moving. There is always someone richer, more attractive, more accomplished, and more talented. If happiness depends on winning the comparison game, then happiness becomes almost impossible to achieve. This constant upward comparison quietly changes how people see themselves. Gratitude disappears, contentment fades, success no longer feels like success because someone else appears to be doing better. It becomes difficult to appreciate your own life when your eyes are always fixed on someone else's. What many people forget is that there's always another direction they could look. There's always downward comparison. There are people who would gladly trade places with the person complaining about their job because they don't have one. There are people who would be grateful for a healthy body because they're struggling with illness. There are people who would give anything for a loving family, financial stability, or the opportunities that others take for granted. This is not meant to create guilt. It's meant to create perspective. Gratitude often comes from realizing that things we overlook are the very things that someone else is praying for. When people only compare upward, they develop a scarcity mindset. They focus on what's missing, what they don't have, or how far they still need to go. But when they occasionally look downward, they remember what they already possess. Perspective changes everything. This doesn't mean people should stop pursuing growth or ambition. There's nothing wrong with wanting more in life. The danger comes when comparison steals appreciation for the life that already exists. Perhaps the healthiest comparison is not upward or downward, it's backward. Instead of asking, "Am I ahead of someone else?" a better question might be, "Am I ahead of where I used to be?" Are you more patient than you were a year ago? Are you healthier, wiser, or more resilient than you once were? Have you learned something that your younger self did not know? This type of comparison creates growth without creating resentment. It encourages progress while protecting gratitude. The truth is that someone will always have more than you, and someone will always have less. That reality will never change. But your peace of mind depends on where you choose to place your attention. If your eyes are always fixed on people who seem to have more, life will feel like a race you can never win. If you occasionally pause and recognize that you already have, gratitude begins to grow. And if you compare yourself to the person you were yesterday, you may discover that the most meaningful competition was never with anyone else at all. There's something that happens when a person steps outside that's difficult to explain, but easy to feel. The air feels different. The mind begins to slow. The constant pressure to think, respond, and keep up starts to fade. It doesn't take much. A short walk, sitting on a bench, standing quietly and looking around. Yet even in those simple moments, something begins to shift. Nature has a way of creating space. In daily life, the mind is often full. There are responsibilities, conversations, decisions, and distractions. Notifications demand attention. Thoughts move quickly from one thing to the next. Even during rest, it can feel like the mind is still working. This creates a kind of mental noise, not always loud but constant. Being outdoors interrupts that pattern. There is no urgency in a tree, no pressure in the sound of wind. The pace of nature is steady, unaffected by schedules or expectations. When a person steps into that environment, even briefly, they begin to match that pace. Breathing slows, thoughts become less crowded. The need to rush begins to soften. It is not that problems disappear, it's that they're no longer surrounded by noise. This allows something important to happen: clarity. When the mind is constantly busy, it reacts. It moves from one thought to the next without fully processing any of them. But in stillness, thoughts have room to settle. What once felt overwhelming can begin to feel manageable. Nature doesn't provide answers in words. It creates the conditions where answers can be found. There is also a sense of perspective that comes with being outside. Looking at open space, water, or sky reminds a person that life is larger than whatever is currently occupying their mind. It doesn't minimize challenges, but it places them in context. What felt all-consuming can begin to feel temporary. This shift is subtle, but meaningful. Another benefit of being outdoors is the way it reconnects a person with the present moment. Indoors, it's easy to drift into past or the future. Regret, worry, planning, and overthinking can take over. But outside, attention is drawn to what is happening now. The feeling of the ground under your feet, the movement of air, the sound of leaves or distant activity. These small details anchor attention. They pull the mind out of constant thinking and into direct experience. This is where a different kind of calm begins to develop, not forced, not controlled, but natural. Nature also provides a break from constant stimulation. Screens, conversations, and responsibilities require ongoing attention. Even moments of relaxation are often filled with input. Being outdoors removes much of that. There is less to process, less to respond to. That absence is not empty, it's restorative. It gives the mind a chance to reset. This reset becomes important because without it, stress can build quietly. Mental fatigue increases, reactions become quicker, patience becomes thinner, and focus becomes harder to maintain. Spending time outside, even in small amounts, helps restore balance. It doesn't require a major change. It doesn't need to be complicated. The benefit comes from consistency, not intensity. A short walk without distractions, a few minutes of stillness, time spent without a screen or a goal. These moments may seem simple, but they carry weight. In a world that often feels fast and demanding, nature offers something different. It offers steadiness, space, and it offers quiet. And in that quiet, something begins to return. Clarity, calm, a sense of being grounded again. The mind doesn't need to be pushed into stillness. Sometimes it only needs to be placed in the right environment. And more often than not, that environment is just outside. Addiction doesn't always look like excess in the traditional sense. Doesn't always involve substances or obvious escapes. Today, one of the most powerful addictions is quieter, socially accepted, and often encouraged. It's distraction. Constant, endless distraction. Distraction fills the small gaps of life, the moments of stillness, uncertainty, or discomfort. Phones are checked without thought. Content is consumed without intention. Noise becomes the default. And over time, distraction stops being a choice and becomes a reflex. Not because people are weak, but because the world is designed to pull attention away from the present moment. Distraction is appealing because it offers relief. It softens boredom. It numbs discomfort. It provides quick stimulation when energy is low or emotions feel heavy. But like any addiction, relief is temporary. The more distraction is used to avoid discomfort, the less capable people become of sitting with themselves. What begins as a coping mechanism quietly turns into dependence. The cost of constant distraction is subtle but significant. Focus weakens. Patience shortens. Motivation fades. People feel busy but unfulfilled, stimulated but restless. Tasks feel harder to begin. Thoughts feel scattered. Life feels full yet oddly shallow. Many experience exhaustion without knowing why. Distraction also distances people from meaning. Purpose requires attention. Growth requires presence. Self-awareness requires moments of quiet reflection. When every pause is filled, there's no space to process experiences, emotions, or direction. Without reflection, life becomes reactive. Days are spent responding rather than choosing. This is why distraction often intensifies during stress. When life feels uncertain or overwhelming, distraction offers escape without confrontation. It allows people to avoid difficult thoughts, unresolved emotions, or uncomfortable questions. But avoidance comes at a price. What is ignored does not disappear, it accumulates. Over time, distraction increases anxiety rather than relieving it. Importantly, distraction is not the enemy. The issue is not technology, entertainment, or rest. The issue is unconscious use. When distraction replaces intention, it begins to control behavior. The difference between rest and escape is awareness. Rest restores energy. Escape delays growth. Breaking the cycle doesn't require extreme discipline or complete disconnection. It begins with noticing. Noticing how often distraction is used to avoid silence. Noticing how quickly attention shifts when something feels uncomfortable. Noticing what emotions surface when nothing is pulling focus away. Small changes matter. Pausing before reaching for distraction. Allowing moments of quiet without immediately filling them. Creating boundaries around attention rather than letting it be constantly taken. These moments may feel uncomfortable at first, but discomfort is often where clarity lives. As attention returns, so does depth. Focus strengthens. Creativity reemerges. Motivation becomes steadier. Life begins to feel more intentional. The mind learns that it can sit with discomfort without needing escape. Confidence grows quietly from this awareness. Distraction, as an addiction, thrives on autopilot. Awareness disrupts it. Presence weakens its grip. Over time, the need to constantly consume lessens, replaced by a desire to engage more fully with life as it is. This is not about removing pleasure or ease. It's about reclaiming attention. Attention shapes experience. What receives attention grows. When attention is intentional, life begins to feel coherent again. Choosing presence is a quiet act of strength, not dramatic, not perfect, but powerful. Distraction may be everywhere, but attention remains one of the most valuable resources a person can reclaim. Most days the real challenge isn't what's in front of you. It isn't the competition, the circumstances, or the timing. It's the quiet negotiation you have with yourself before the day even begins. You wake up with two options. One version of you wants comfort. The other wants progress. That conversation doesn't make noise, but it decides everything. People spend a lot of time preparing for battles that don't matter. They study opponents. They wait for conditions to improve. They rehearse arguments for why now isn't the time. Meanwhile, the most important contest is already underway, and it doesn't involve anyone else. It's you versus you. This battle shows up in ordinary moments, when the alarm goes off, when the plan feels inconvenient, when motivation doesn't arrive on schedule. Discipline isn't loud in those moments. It's subtle. It asks one simple question. Will you do what you said you would do? The hardest part is that no one is watching. There's no scoreboard, no immediate consequence. You can delay, rationalize, and quietly move on. And because the cost of not showing up doesn't hit right away, it's easy to pretend it doesn't matter. But it does. Every time you choose comfort over commitment, you reinforce an identity, not because you failed once, but because you practiced avoidance. And every time you show up, even imperfectly, you practice something else, self-respect. This isn't about being hard on yourself, it's about being honest. The version of you that wants more doesn't need inspiration, it needs reliability. Discipline is not intensity, it's follow-through. It's the ability to act without negotiating your standards down. Circumstances will always offer excuses. Fatigue, distraction, doubt. These are not obstacles. They're constants. Waiting for them to disappear means waiting forever. Progress happens when you learn to move with them present. The quiet truth is that consistency doesn't feel heroic. It feels repetitive, boring even. But repetition is where identity is built. You don't become someone by deciding once. You become someone by choosing the same direction again and again. There will be days you don't perform at your best. That's expected. The mistake is letting one off day turn into a story about who you are. Discipline isn't broken by imperfection, it's broken by abandonment. You don't need to win every day. You just need to show up more often than you disappear. Over time, something subtle changes. The internal resistance softens. The negotiations get shorter. Not because things become easier, but because trust is being rebuilt. You begin to believe yourself again. Not because you feel confident, but because you've become dependable. And that's when the battle shifts. You stop seeing the day as something to survive and start seeing it as something to honor. You recognize that the person you're becoming is shaped less by big moments and more by quiet decisions no one else sees. In the end, the victory isn't over circumstances or competitors. It's over the version of you that once walked away. And the realization is simple. If you can show up for yourself consistently and without drama, everything else becomes manageable. Because the real work was never out there. Suffering is something every one of us knows, even if we don't always talk about it. Sometimes it arrives from the outside, like a loss, a setback, a moment that breaks our routine or our plans. But other times, suffering is something we place on ourselves without even realizing it, through our expectations, through our fears, through the pressure we put on our own shoulders to be perfect, to never fail, and to never struggle. And the hardest part is that the suffering we create inside of ourselves often hurts more than the suffering life puts in front of us. We replay mistakes long after they're over. We judge ourselves for not being enough. We carry guilt, shame, and doubt even when no one asked us to. We hold on to stories that make us smaller, weaker, and more afraid. So often our suffering comes from the belief that we should be further ahead, or stronger, or more confident, or already healed. We think, I shouldn't feel this way. I shouldn't be struggling. I should have figured this out by now. But suffering isn't a sign that you're failing, it's just a sign that you are human. Because every person, no matter how strong, how successful or confident, has moments when the weight feels too heavy. Moments when the mind turns against itself. Moments when the suffering inside becomes louder than anything on the outside. A lot of the suffering we experience isn't because life is cruel, it's because we're cruel to ourselves. Because we demand perfection, we hide our emotions, we pretend we're okay when we're hurting, we compare our lives to others and punish ourselves when we don't match up. We expect growth to be straight, clean, and smooth. And when it isn't, we blame ourselves. But suffering doesn't mean something's wrong with you, because suffering is part of the path. It's a signal, not a sentence. The goal in life is not to avoid suffering, because none of us can. The goal is to understand it, learn from it, to stop adding to it. Because the moment you stop fighting your pain, the moment you stop judging it, the moment you stop believing you shouldn't feel this way, something powerful happens. The suffering begins to shift. You realize that pain is temporary, that emotions rise and fall, that thoughts are not facts, that the past cannot be changed, but it can be released, that you can breathe again, even in the middle of the storm. Overcoming suffering doesn't mean pretending everything's fine. It doesn't mean forcing positivity. It doesn't mean acting strong when you feel anything but strong. Overcoming suffering begins with acceptance. This is what I'm feeling, and it's okay to feel it. From there, suffering begins to lighter. Not because life suddenly becomes easy, but because you stop carrying it alone. You stop blaming yourself. You stop fighting what already is. You stop believing that hurting makes you weak. You start to understand that pain is temporary, but the lessons inside it can last a lifetime. Suffering can teach you patience. It can teach you compassion for yourself and for others. It can teach you how to slow down, to listen, to heal, and it can reveal strength you didn't know you had. And maybe the most important thing suffering can teach you is that you're not alone. No matter what you're carrying, someone else has walked through it. No matter how dark it feels, someone else has found the light on the other side. No matter how heavy the weight seems, you were never meant to hold it by yourself. Life isn't about avoiding pain. It's about learning that pain doesn't control you. It doesn't define you. It doesn't decide your future. Suffering may be a part of your story, but it's never the whole story. And even if you brought some of it onto yourself, even if you held on to something longer than you should have, even if you've been hard on yourself for too long, you can still set it down. You can still rise, and you can still heal. This moment is not the end of anything. It's simply the beginning of understanding your own strength. Suffering is temporary. You're not broken, and you're not alone.